Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Um, yeah, so welcome. So the reason that I think this show it's fitting to the current situation that's going on right now in Ukraine, and I'm only doing it because although I want to start off by saying I am not an expert, right? I am not, and I don't claim to be, but I am. You could say, I guess you could say, an amateur historian, right? A historian buff. And yeah, when I did go to school, the first major, I didn't graduate from it, but I majored. I was trying to major in history, so I have some background into it. But yeah, that's besides the point. Yeah, so a lot of people in the media, right, the mainstream media, they're talking about the situation right now in Ukraine, and they have no idea what they're talking about. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. The reason that I say that is because you will see a lot of the time they will say, "Oh, Putin is trying to recreate the Soviet Union." No, he's not, right? Or one thing that they will say a lot is that, "Oh, he's a former KGB agent," and it's like, okay, yeah, that's I guess that's yeah, you could mention that, but it's not he has evolved since then, right? I mean, I view him as a Russian patriot, right? And and this might seems like this video might seems like it's semi-pro-Putin, but the only reason that you might think that is because of what's being fed in the media, right? And I'm trying to give you the whole story, right? I mean, not the whole story in this video. I mean, good God, that would take forever, right? But I'm trying to give you another perspective per se. Okay, so let's begin there. So in 19, okay, there's a quote that it's fitting for this video, and the reason that I want to begin with that quote um is because it's fitting for this video. It's from Catherine the Great. She's one of Russia's great czarina. It's czar. Okay, czar is it's translated to Caesar, so it's almost like that's their version when they had a monarchy. That's their version of their king, right? That's what they called their king, right? From the word Caesar, from Julius Caesar. Um, so the quote is uh, okay, yeah. Anyway, I'll remember it. The quote is Catherine the Great, right? And the I forgot what when she said it, but the quote goes something like this: "The only way for Russia's border to be safe is to expand them." Right? Think about that. So that's the way that that's that's um that's in the Russian psyche is that they have to expand, and that's why if you look at Russia compared to the former great empire, right? During imperial time, colonial time, I mean, you had the Great Britain, France, they have a lot of colony overseas, right? But Russia, what they did was that they would always expand their border. And the reason that they did that is because they wanted a buffer zone from Europe, from Western Europe mainly, right? And the reason that is because once you pass Ukraine area, if you ever look on a map, so you have Ukraine here, and then you have Belarus on top, and then you have Poland, and then you have Russia here, right on the right. So in order for them to feel safe, right, they have to expand eastward because once you pass Poland and you pass into Belarus, it's basically flat ground, right? And then you have Ukraine down there, and in northern part of Ukraine, it's mountains, right? So that could be a buffer zone. And then once you pass um, into Belarus, it's flat ground all the way into Moscow, right? There's no buffer zone, there's no river, there's no mountains, there's no nothing. So they feel vulnerable that way. And the reason that they want that buffer zone is because that buffer zone has helped them. That's what helped them defeat Napoleon, right? Napoleon captured Moscow, but he didn't defeat Russia. And it's the same thing that happened in World War I and in World War II. Okay, so the okay, so the yeah, so 1991. That was just a brief history. So in 1991, the Russian the Soviet Union collapsed, right? So when that happened, when the Soviet Union collapsed, you have a lot of Russians, right? Because you have a lot of Russian that was living in in their country, the Soviet Union, but now all of a sudden, if they're in Ukraine, now they're in another country overnight, right? So so that's the grievance. That's the thing that Putin has when he says that he's trying to protect Russian speakers that are in Ukraine. And um, okay, but it says, why is Ukraine the most important buffer zone? Why can't they build a great wall like China did in the past? Well, that 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 great wall would have to stretch from Belarus all the way to Latvia, and it would and in modern time right now, it just wouldn't be feasible. Um, the someone had that question. Let me see if I could show it. Yeah, someone asked that question. So that's why they can't build a great wall like China. And in China, that was in ancient time, ancient history. Right now, I mean, even back in Napoleon time, they all do is shell it and then just go past through it. So it just wouldn't work. And then part of China's Great Wall, it stretched through mountains. So yeah, anyway. So that's why they can't just build a buffer zone. They need that space so that it takes time for if an invader, because that's the only way you could really invade Russia is through um Carpathian. Well, it's above the Carpathian Mountains, which is which it stretches in through Ukraine. Anyway, so yeah, so let me keep going. So yes, so you have that. So in 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia, yeah, went, yeah, a lot of Russians all of a sudden they were living in another country, and so what they did, so the issue that Putin has is that he wants Russia to be a great power again, and it's not that he's trying to recreate the Soviet Union. No, if anything, he want to create greater Russia to include um, land that was part of the Soviet Union, and yeah, that was part of the Soviet. That was yeah, FAUG. Yeah, thanks for the question. I answered it. Sorry. Yeah. So, what was I saying? Yes. So yes, he wanna protect he wanna create greater Russia, not necessarily recreate the Soviet Union, because the whole ideology of the Soviet Union was communism, and Putin is not trying to recreate communism. He hates Lenin. I mean, I don't know if the one of the speech that he gave before he the special military operation, which is the invasion of Ukraine, right? One of the he talks about that. He says he cursed out Lenin basically, right? He hates Lenin. He saw Lenin as being weak and as destroying the Russian Empire, right? And one of the things that you have to understand is Putin, the two, well, three people that he admired the most in Russian history is um, Peter the Great, which created city of St. Petersburg. Later on, Stalingrad, but that's where he was born. Also, he was born in St. Petersburg. Catherine the Great, the lady that the Tsarina that I quoted to you in the beginning, and then after that, Stalin. So with him, it's not about ideology. It's not that he's pro monarchy or he's pro um, communist. He's pro Russia, right? Greater Russia. So that's his philosophy. And a lot of people in the media, when they're like, "Oh, he's gone mad. He's a madman." Blah blah. He's not. If you look at it from his point of view, it makes sense. Although it is faulty, ultimately he is wrong because you cannot force someone. That's why I put the thumbnail like that. It's a marriage. It's almost like a girl who's in a relationship, who's in a marriage, who's with an abusive husband, right? But the husband doesn't want to let her go. So it's kind of like that. So you can't force someone to be with you, but you have to try to understand where he's coming from. Because if you don't understand your enemy, how can you get anywhere, right? So yeah, that's why I'm coming from that angle. Okay. So yeah, he doesn't have any ideology in terms of is he a communist or is he a monarchist? No, he's not. Right? He just want to create a greater Russia. So yes. So let's move on now. Right? And and so what happened was um and after the Soviet Union collapsed, right? A lot of former states that used to be part of the Soviet Union or that was allied with the Soviet Union joined NATO. NATO, it stands for the Northern at I'm gonna mess it up. The Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? All it basically means is that if someone attack anyone, all of them is gonna come in and help out that country, and the country that you need to care about is the U.S. That's it. I mean, it's basically U.S. protecting Europe, and there's 30 members now in NATO. So, and that's the main part about NATO is that it's Article 5 stating that an attack on one is an attack on all of them, right? So, but when the Soviet Union collapsed, I think there was about 15 or 18 members of NATO. So NATO's moving eastward, right? A lot of like you have Belarus, I mean not Belarus, sorry, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Those are the Baltic states that borders Russia, and they're part of NATO. So you have um, U.S. U.S. troops and U.S. missiles on Russia's border, right? And that's a no for them because the whole point of it is that they want a buffer zone. They don't have that buffer zone anymore, right? Whoever it is that they perceive as their enemy, and they view U.S. and NATO as their enemy, right? So he's trying to recreate. I mean, he's trying to get that buffer zone, and Ukraine is so important to Russia. Why is it so important to Russia? It's important to Russia because um, in the year 1000, that's where you could say the Russian state started. It started in Kiev, right? There was no Moscow before. I mean, there was Kiev before Moscow. So it's almost like the a good example that I could give you. It's almost like, so you know how the U.S. started in the 13 colonies, and it was mainly the states that was the most important ones were Virginia, Pennsylvania, right? And that's where the U.S. capital was going to be in Pennsylvania, and then they they created DC after that. So it's almost like that. But obviously now the states that are the most important states in the US, it is not Virginia, it is not Pennsylvania, right? Although that's where the country started. So it's kind of like that with Russia and Ukraine, right? So think about that. Think about if the US had lost the Cold War, and then now these states are allied with Russia, right? I mean, people in the US would feel some type of way about that, right? And that's what he means by when he says Ukraine is not a real country, because in his mind, it has always been part of Russia, right? Throughout the history, it has always been part of Russia. And that's where the Russian state started, right? So, so yeah. Does anyone have any questions so far? I mean, other questions? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So yes. So that's the analogy that I would give. And so he's seeing Russia's just getting weaker, weaker, and weaker. So in order for him, um, so if Ukraine is not aligned with Russia, Russia's going to be super weak, right? Throughout the history, and that's why Ukraine has always been part of Russia, right? In order for Russia to be strong. So yeah, so that's why he's moving into Ukraine, and basically to bring it back into the fold, right? So yeah, he's not a madman. He's not a crazy person. I would say if I think he's someone that made a wrong calculation, right? He made a blunder. It's almost like you're playing chess. When you playing, I'm talking about real chess. If you ever play chess and you made a bad move and you're like, oh my god, that was a stupid move. People don't call you a madman because of that, right? So it's the same thing with what did John Dejoe John Denjo says, in your opinion, would who would benefit most from the Ukrainian-Russia conflict? Um, I would have to say America slash NATO. The reason that is because Russia's gonna become weak because of that, right? Because of the war that they're fighting right now. In my opinion, Russia has already lost, right? Because Putin cannot conquer the whole country, right? And then the very few people that was pro Russia, right? I'm not talking about the in the eastern part, which was the Donetsk and Lunex area. I'm not talking about those area that he says that he recognized as independent states. I'm not talking about those, but the western part, which is the majority of the country, and which is the people that which is where the most of the population that is anti-Russia live, right? So these people, he lost them forever. I mean, not forever, but you know what I mean. For at least 5 generations, they will hate Russia. So Putin is going to become Russia's going to become weak right now, and I don't know if you saw in the news they're asking um, China for aid, right, and for military assistance, right? I mean, obviously they do have um, their weapons warehouse is not totally empty. It's just that they don't want to go into their emergency reserves because what if something happened, right? So yeah, so that's why. So yeah, so what's gonna happen is that Russia's gonna become far weaker out of this, right? When they come out of this situation, Russia's gonna be far weaker. The economy right now it's in a free fall. The ruble, I think 1 ruble equal like less than a penny, right? Not even a penny, less than a penny. There was this video that I saw online. It was this Russian man. He went into a mall and then he was just throwing rubles everywhere. And then he was basically making it rain as if you go to a club and no one was grabbing the money or anything like that because essentially it's almost worthless, right? So his economy is going to be suffered, and also what's going to happen is that he can't leave Ukraine and saying that okay, I have Crimea. Oh, that's one thing that I didn't explain also why is Crimea so important. The So just real quick, so the reason that Crimea is so important is because Russia doesn't have any ports that does uh, that's not freezed 6 months out of the year. Crimea in the Black Sea was the only port that they listed from Ukraine. Um, yeah, from Ukraine. So if they had joined NATO when they kicked out of when they had the Orange Revolution in 2014, if Ukraine had joined NATO, so they couldn't have that, they wouldn't have access to that one port, for their military ships, right? That was the only one. So in 2014, when he took over Ukraine, he didn't invade you. I mean, not Ukraine, Crimea. Those troops was already there, and what they did was that they just took over because they're already there. So that's why he took Crimea, and it just means more to him in 2014. It just means more to him than America or Europe, right? It clearly shows. I think the U.S. only slapped like a few sanctions on Russia's biggest bank. So it was minor sanctions, and that just should shows you um, why Ukraine um, shouldn't be part of NATO essentially. Because if Ukraine was part of NATO, what's happening right now, it would have been World War III. Right now, I know you might say, well, that's the whole point is to trying to prevent that, but that's a risk that you're taking. You're taking a risk on something. I'm talking about America, on something that's not strategically important to you, because right now, if Russia, again, he won't, but if Russia were to take over um, Ukraine right now, right? It wouldn't be that big of a loss for the US, right, in terms of their allies. So it just goes to show you expansion of NATO. A lot of countries that are in NATO, they're not strategically important to America. So it's like, why give them the Article 5 if you're not willing to fight for them? If a country that's strategically important to America, you should fight for it, whether or not they're in NATO. Japan is not part of NATO, right? I mean, Taiwan, Taiwan, right? That's what everybody's saying is next. Um, Japan, Taiwan is not part of NATO, but if China goes in there, America would have to fight because it's strategically important to America, and Ukraine is just not, unfortunately. And I think, to be honest with you, if I'm being honest, and you know me, I'm pro America, right? I'm a patriot guy. I think we led Ukraine down a bad road by promising them that you we would accept them into NATO when that wasn't the case in 2008, right? That's what Judge Bush said, right? That um, Ukraine should apply for NATO membership of NATO, and for Putin, that was a red line for him, and he has said that, right? And, that's one. Even though it was bad TV, RT, which is Russia Today, when they would do some shows that when Putin would have this yearly live conference where he would take questions from members from Russians, but the general public of Russia, right? When he would take questions from them, and I would watch it, and he would say it over and over again. These are our red line, and I think he said this year or last year, I guess, that if someone who doesn't respect Russia's red line, they're gonna get their teeth kicked in, right? So he has been saying it, and that's the thing too. A lot of people in the media, when they're like, "Oh my God, we're so shocked, we're so surprised. Why is this happening?" He has been telling us for the, I would say since 2007. There's this famous speech that he gave in 2007. It's called, just go on YouTube and put Putin, 2007, um, 2007 Munich Security Conference speech. He lays out everything that he's going to be doing for the next, um, everything that he was going to be doing, which is what he did. The whole Crimea, the whole Syria thing. He kind of laid it out. Now he didn't say Syria, all of those things, but he laid out what was his goal, what was his red line. Yeah, so America is going to be the biggest winner in this, because Russia's going to emerge out of this a far weaker power. And also another thing that I should have mentioned is that a lot of the Russian military, because Russia has three export, right? Well, two things that they sell. They sell stuff that comes out of the ground, right, which is natural gas, oil, diamonds, stuff like that, right? And then they sell weapons, right? So now with the with them showing that the weapons kind of suck, it's not what they advertised. A lot of people, a lot of foreign buyers, gonna be looking at it like, well, should we look at somewhere else? China, America, definitely America. Even China buy weapons from Russia, right? So either way you look at it, Putin is a loser out of this strategically, because he can't conquer the whole country and bring it in. Even if he were to, he would have to send additional troops. That's one. The 190,000 that he sent is not enough, right? He can't even take Ukraine. So so yeah, unfortunately, that's the, of course, I mean, how could you not say the Ukrainian people, right? They're a loser in this, because they're losing their homes, and their countries being shelled and bombed right day and night. So yeah, those are the losers. Um, those are the losers out of this, and I would say America and the EU is the biggest winner out of this. America mainly. And I think, to be honest with you, I think China is just trying to play the results. They're just trying to see what they're trying to say. Oh, let's we got to find a diplomatic way um, to solve this conflict. Meanwhile, they're when the U.S. and the European kicked uh, uh, Russia off of SWIFT. SWIFT is just basically, just think of SWIFT as the way, it's an acronym. I forgot what it stands for. Just think of it as how banks talk to each other, right? So so they kicked them out of off of it, but they're using China's. I mean, China's is basically just used for China banks. I think China's have that just in case if something happened, so they could so they're not beholden to America and Europe in case of sanctions, if it were to remove them off of SWIFT. So yeah, China is just using China is just playing the results. I think I don't think China, excuse me, I don't think China necessarily like it like this, but like the fact that he went into Ukraine. I mean, but they're not mad at it either. Yeah. So one last thing that I will say is that um, to under, understand a country, you have to look at its three things that you need: its history, its geography, and its culture. And once you understand those, three things, it will tell you everything that you need to know about a country. And I think a lot of people in the media, they don't understand um, Russian culture, and not that I'm saying I do. Again, I'm not, but I know more than them, I would say, and they don't understand Russia's geography. Right? It's like, oh, he has one of the things that they're saying. It's like, oh, he potentially have cancer. Oh, look at those long tables that he's talking to people. He's afraid of getting COVID and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, you could point those out, but I don't think that's a huge, major staking point um of him going into Ukraine right now. Although, or I saw this thing on CNN. Jesus Christ, I don't even know why I watched that, but they were like, "Oh, he stumbled in his speech here and stuff like that. That means something." It's like, no, it doesn't. It's like all you got to do is pick up his history. Look up, yeah, yeah. Just pick up a history book and listen to, um, yeah, just do a little bit of history and watch his speech. Let me see. How can I invite people? I'm gonna drop the link in case if anyone want to come up, because I think that would be better to do a back and forth. So I dropped the link. I'm dropping it right now. So yeah, if anyone, it's in the chat. So if anyone want to come up and ask questions, because it would be better for me that way if anyone has questions. All right, hold on. Yeah. So yeah, just keep that in mind. He's not a crazy person. Look up John Mearsheimer and Stephen Kotkin. There's some others, but those are the ones that came to mind, top of mind. They're the one they give a they do a far better job at it. I mean, they are expert at this. It gives you Russia's perspective, Russia's viewpoint. Ultimately, they are saying that he is wrong. They're not. It's not that they're pro Putin or anything like that. They're not. But it kind of gives you that understanding. So a lot of people don't go ahead and say, oh yeah, we should. And I saw a poll that says that 74% of Americans would support a no-fly zone over Ukraine. It's like, are you crazy? You do realize what that would mean, right? Yeah, it'll be World War III, right? It'll be, and if that happens, no more, no more iPhone update, right? You wouldn't get the next iPhone. You wouldn't get your next Tesla, right? It would be the end. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not saying that that's it's a definite that would happen, but it's potentially right. It's at risk. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for now. But just keep that in mind. He is not a crazy person, and a lot of he's not trying to recreate the Soviet Union. He's not. He hates I mean, he hates Stalin, which is, I mean, not Stalin. Sorry. He hates Lenin, which is the founder of the Bolshevik Revolution, which brings Soviet Russia, right, communism into Russia. He's the founder of that. So if you're trying to recreate that, you would hold that guy in high esteem and in high regards. And the whole thing about the KGB part, it's overplayed, it's overblown. Don't listen to that. It's like, yeah, sure, but it's not that important. And he is not a crazy person. He's just miscalculated, and he just have a twisted view of history. And so, real quick, so one of the things that he says he talked about was that he's gonna not uh, denazify Ukraine, right? Basically, he's gonna remove Nazis in Ukraine, right? There are actually Nazis in Ukraine. Now, is it? are they in charge of the government? Are they running things? No, not to what I know, right? But there is a substantial. It's just like anywhere in Europe or some part of in America where you have skinheads, Nazi groups and stuff like that. It's kind of like that. But the reason that he has that view of Ukraine in that sense is because during the Second World War, when Nazi Germany went into Russia, a lot of Ukrainians went ahead and because they wanted their independence. That's how far back that thing went. They wanted their independence, so they thought that, oh, Germany is here to liberate me. So they join in and fight for I forgot if on YouTube I said the N word. That N word, not the anyway, yeah, the not. So they went ahead and joined the Knots to fight the Russians, which was the Soviet Union at that time. So that's why he's saying is that, oh, it's being controlled by Knots, right? That's why he have that view, and there is Knots in Ukraine. So that's why that's kind of a sensitive point to him. But the reason that a lot of them did that was because they hated Stalin, the Soviet Union, so much was that they were like, well, I'll fight for, basically the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they were saying that, okay, I'll fight for them, and then maybe they will give us our independence. And obviously that didn't happen because later on the Nazis turned on the Ukrainians. So yeah, so that's why he's saying that Nazis have taken over Ukraine, and then they have a history of that, because it is a sore spot. Look up one person that you guys should look up. I think his name is Stepan Bandera. He was a Nazi, and then he was Ukrainian, but he was a real Nazi. He was fighting for Ukrainian independence. Yeah, I think that's his name, Stepan Bandera. I took a screenshot of his name. Hold on one second, please. Where is it? Anyway, yeah, that's his name. Stephen Bend. Okay, there we go. Yeah, look that up. I don't know if you guys can see. All right, yeah, him. So just look that up to get some information. And again, don't believe everything that I say. Look up, look, look, another source, right, to get your information. I don't think that's what a lot of people go wrong is that they get their information. There's from just one person. Look up on the opposite side too, so you're gonna get a clear picture of it. And I try to be as fair as I can, but everybody has their biases. And no, I don't have biases for Putin. Mm, yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I think that's gonna be it. Peace.